I have returned. Excuse me for being out of breath. There's the beep. And I was working my way back. I thought it kind of might have been a little bit of funny if I would have left the recording on and then just crawled back into my bed. Either way, I am here. Hello to all of you. Pleasure to see you here. Anyway, despite the way that I'm talking, and I'm sure you've noticed this is a strange type of... I mean, my videos are always pretty strange, but this is a little different, I suppose. And unscripted because, I don't know, I feel like I'm an improv kitty at heart. And while I know some serious things you'd like to have a script for, or what have you, I also think scripts can underplay the actual emotion at times. Although I'm a writer as well as all these other things that I've been doing. But regardless, I'd prefer to speak from the heart here. And the topic at hand is going to be a very serious one that I've been wanting to address for many, many years. There are so many things that I've wanted to address for many, many, many years. Being someone who's gone through many, many, many traumas and all these other things, having PTSD among all sorts of other mental issues. And the main topic of today's video is going to be one that has popped up into my head more and more often during my healing journey and my peeks back into my history and past, which is actually, funny enough, a good bit of what sparked this is I saw a few videos that were addressing the fact that the writer of Word, Mushroom Lady, this poor fungus don't deserve to be associated with her. Anyway, what did fungus ever do to her? Poor fungus. Anyway, outside of that, I heard that not only does she continue to have issues with transgender topics, but apparently, I don't really keep up too often. I just occasionally see videos here and there. You know, I'm not... Either way. I saw like a few people talking about how even though I'm not entirely sure when Asexual Day is, I don't keep track too often about official holidays and other things. But that's also because I'm a social recluse kind of. I don't usually step out of my cave too often. But I do occasionally keep up. So apparently this April was National Asexual Awareness Day. I think it was on the 4th, somewhere around there. Either way, as someone who has and has had many friends who have been transgender, and who had been questioning the fact of whether I felt the same when I flip-flopped between whichever gender identity, along with not wanting to associate with my name or anything. I am also under the asexual bracket. I don't usually like to talk about these things most of the time. However, there is a serious thing from my perspective, my personal perspective, And take this with a grain of salt because each person dealing with these types of struggles, whether transgender, mental illness, or asexuality, it is all a spectrum. Everyone deals with things differently, etc., etc. So my story will not be other people's story, and please do not associate me with the rest of the community. If you want to have actual opinions on something, I think, like any sane person, which is funny coming from me because most people consider me insane. But as someone who values science and study, I think it is very important to source multiple things. And people say that all the gosh darn time. Do not just source one little thing. And for those who are against whatever nonsense that is, people who call them bigots and stuff. And I have complicated views. I think that if you have those strong views, it's coming from somewhere. I don't really have aggression outside of those who decide to actively be violent and harm others. I think there is chance for everyone to learn. Learning is power. Yeah. Anyway, my point is that whether you hate the bigots, whether you hate transgenders, or whatever, do not source just one particular person under that bracket or one particular thing, because you will not find what you're looking for. And if you're looking for an echo chamber, I'm not here to perpetuate that. Those are my first few things to say. Outside of that, I'm going to continue on to my experience with gender identity and being asexual. I'm not going to cover everything, but the main things that I'm going to cover revolve around these particular two things. And what ties into all of this is the more serious aspect of my deepest lore. La ha ha. And despite saying things like this and seeming like I'm not so serious about it, with the trauma that I've been through, I don't react the same way as others might, my own stuff. But even before the age of 10, I had a history of those being... I had SA. I had a CSA before I was even 10, and it was a incident where I was left unsupervised at a hotel, and I was with my brother in one area, and a individual, while we were sitting there, I thought he was decent, he had a wife, whatever, I guess. But during our time sitting, I felt inappropriate touching happening, and I was confused, of course, and then scared and ran off. But this was a big thing that changed a lot. There was already big things happening before that as well. But I'm not going to go into the prior trauma before this incident, because this is mainly revolving around my experience with gender identity and asexuality as a whole. So when you deal with something like that as a kid, of course you are, when you continue to live your life, usually you don't go around talking about it. It's too painful, it's embarrassing, whatever. Either way, through all of these struggles, I didn't see myself the same after that incident, and most people don't. I remember after that incident, a time in my history to where I was watching stuff with my dad, and I analyzed myself in the child mind that I did, and there wasn't official terms that I knew of when I was growing up, so I would just say, I'm both a man and a woman. I'm exactly like that. I'm like both into one body. And I've started to realize during that time, especially since not only did I have that incident, but at school there was other things happening that made me feel less and less safe as a female child. And it wasn't just adults, it was other kids too. I live in a society where our bodies, for some reason, are way too much importance, and sexuality, whatever, is way too big for people to just leave alone, apparently. During my times in school, especially in my early years. In my earlier years, I was a twig, and also still dealing with mental health issues and doctors. So the medications that I was on was constantly changing my body, proportions, weight, everything. Either way, when I was younger, I was the late bloomer, very flat-chested. One of the things that really bothered me in middle school, especially when changing in the locker rooms, was the fact that despite being so flat that in my child mind I thought I did not need to wear a training bra yet. So I would change my clothes, try to change in the public changing area with the other girls, and they would look at me and see that I wasn't wearing a training bra, and they would comment and be like, "Oh my god, you're such a freaking pervert, how dare you not wear a training bra, little bitch." And it happened constantly. I was constantly being singled out in the locker room for not wearing a training bra when I was flat as heck, and I was just trying to change my clothes. And with being previously essayed as a kid, and still being a child, comments like that really made me scared, and I was terrified. Nobody, not the adults, not the other kids knew, and I can't entirely blame children for being children, but I would constantly tell teachers and things and try to get help. Of course, it's the same old story to where teachers don't usually get involved. That was a lot to deal with, and there was even a time to where I wasn't changing and I just decided to wear a really cool tight shirt that I liked. And again, I wasn't wearing a bra. It was cold in one of the classes, and when the teacher walked out, and the worst part was the particular person who was especially singling me out was an ex-friend who became a bully because she figured out that she could, and it would keep her from being bullied. So I was having this issue with an ex-friend as well. Either way, she pointed out that my nipples were showing, and really made sure the other kids in the class heard. And then they all turned heads and started pointing and laughing. And again, I was scared because of what I had been through, and having my body continue to be pointed at, and I was treated like I was the pervert. I was the gross individual for just existing and being like not even barely 13. I mean, I was bullied very heavily in school, whether it be for those reasons or just being the outcast of the outcast, because I never really got along with kids my own age or others, really. I was the nerd who didn't fit in among other nerds. And I was hated to the degree that people would put things, they would hawk loogies on my locker, they would vandalize it and put gum on both sides of my locker lock and put even notes that said I should go off myself. And no matter what, even though I knew there were cameras in the school, no matter how many times I begged for help, there was none to be had. And this was only the start of things, and these things, of course, made me feel even less safe to be female or even a male. You get to see both sides of the coin. It wasn't just men who were the issue, it was females, other females too. And males who were dealing with their own set of issues of being objectified or whatever else. But men, on the other side of things, are really stigmatized if they get sexually abused or anything like that, which is absolutely vile, in my opinion, and it still is. And I think it's vile to blame either gender for anything solely, because it's a mixed bag. We all have our bad eggs, but I digress from that. Moving forward, since those things are always something that made me feel unsafe, it only got worse from there. And unfortunately, as you get older, people become more hormonal, more involved in wanting to be intimate in the perverse sense. And being someone who had been constantly mentally abused and all the other myriad of issues that I was going through, it only continued to get worse. I had people who found out that I would read smutty novels because that's where I felt safe. I didn't feel safe doing anything in real life. And then I would continue to be called a slut and pervert for just wanting to safely read something perverse. And when I was younger, I definitely was, because of what I dealt with, I was into the not so great kink aspects. And I realized from a young age, after what I dealt with, I was into things that were very bad, but at least I was doing it in a healthy sense. And not everybody leads to doing these things in a healthy sense, which is devastating. But as you reach middle school, high school, and being the sensitive individual, empathetic individual that I have always been, I even had guys who realized that I was easy to manipulate and would pressure me into perverse things that I was not comfortable with and make me feel like I wasn't going to be loved unless I did those things, even if it scared me and made me want to puke. It's not as simple all the time as people say, it's just people who don't want to shag or what have you. To me, when I started having gender identity issues and realizing that sex or anything dealing with those topics, even being intimately touched in the innocent ways by people, made me feel scared at a certain point. I didn't like it. It made me sad. It hurt. And I wanted to be able to hug and be close to those I cared for. But it only got worse and worse, and as I developed a chest, I became even more resentful of having boobs, because people just couldn't leave the chest issue alone. And people would talk about, oh my god, do you see that? And it scared me. It scared me to have boobs. It scared me to have something that people would sexualize on my body. The idea that my body was all that I was being seen for was devastating to me. And I continued to have worse and worse moments with this, and it still continues into this adulthood to where I am in my early 30s now. And I'm only now just starting to feel comfortable again identifying as my birth gender, my birth sex, because I've started to care less about that. And even still, it scares me. I still don't like reverse intimacy in the real sense, and I barely have much experience. I have experience, but it's not ever been pleasant. It's always left a scar on me. And it's hard, you know? And it's hard for a lot of people dealing with these things. And nobody seems to, they don't see those things as human when they are part of the human experience, really. Plus, there's plenty of scientific elements of other species having qualities akin to what we speak about. Probably not on the psychological side, but other sides of it. But either way, my point being is that even now I find those things very disgusting. It's upsetting. I am repulsed that we live in such a world where everything is so based or reverse. And I'm sure many who have felt similar to me feel the same way. I mean, there's a lot. I'm not alone in feeling these things. Not entirely. I know that. And it makes me sad that others who are in my skin have to hear people being intolerant and stupid over things that you can't control. And that happens a lot. We even have people who pretend they care, only to hurt you for the things that you can't control. But transgenderism and gender identity, asexuality, it's not so simple. At least not for me, and probably not for others, some others either. It's a lifelong traumatic experience that people continue to prove you right on. You try to express yourself and tell them you're suffering, only to be met with mocking laughter and to be told that you're a freak. Or to be told that you're either way. Even now, I'm not sure how things are going to go. And I'm still dealing with a lot. I've been dealing with a lot since I was young. I just don't ever really talk about it much. And I'm always afraid to talk about it because people easily misunderstand or what have you. But I guess I just wanted to have a small moment of being able to say that I have a entire history and perspective on things that I'd like to share and hope that other people can learn or feel inspired by. I know I'm not alone in this world feeling afraid and worried about the state of everything. And the fact of the matter is if I guess I'm getting a little emotional, so I might have to stop it here for now, but I wanted to say that anybody who is dealing with certain things like this or have some relatability to what I've said, keep going, keep striving, keep proving people that you have a right to exist. You have a right to feel and be human, just like they do. And I hope that maybe one day, when it's not so spontaneous, that I can give a proper, a proper breakdown of my feelings towards these things. But I feel like these things have caused such distress in my already wrecked mind for long times, which is why I don't even like to usually show my face on camera. And I've only just recently been able to do so. Because I wanted to be more than my body. I wanted to be more than my physical form, as I'm sure most people do. A lot of times we aren't born into the physical form that we find appealing, and a lot of times that's influenced by the outside inputs of other people during very traumatic experiences. We are more than just our bodies. And we are more than the torment and the pain that we deal with every day. We are so much more than that. And we have our moments of acting in poor taste. And maybe we hurt people on accident because we're hurting too. And I guess I get a bit of an idealist, but I also have the sense of realism and understanding that not everything can go in certain directions that I would see happiness in. And even now, I am struggling to deal with a lot, and I barely ever express these things, so it seems like I'm cash money, yo. Either way, I wanted to just say to anybody who has been scared and afraid, dealing with these types of things, or dealt with these types of things, still going, that it's perfectly acceptable to be confused or to not know, to feel one way or the other. We all are learning about ourselves and others and the world. It's a confusing place. It always has been. And I'm somebody who likes to study all sorts of areas. I keep saying I'm very much like Twilight Sparkle. I get hyperfixations on random topics here and there, and I just continue to study until... But then there are other times where I just like the fun facts. And the fact of the matter is, people have been struggling with these types of things for far longer than it's been recorded. And it has been recorded, and even if you don't look all that hard, there are plenty of instances in our ancient texts and history where those dealing with these issues were in existence back then. They just had to hide it more. And people talk about, oh my god, the statistics, they're making more people that are this way. No. More people just feel safer coming out, depending on who they are. Statistics aren't always correct, and they are full of bias. As is a lot of things in the world, which is why multiple sources is very important. Either way, I'm going to spend the rest of my morning getting ready to hang out with my brother. He's a wonderful person, and I've mentioned him lots. I could see my dad too. They live right nearby. But I wanted to give this little small talk. I was gonna make it a bit longer, but I'm still recovering from a long period of excessive pain and illness from mental issues. And situational. But one last thing before I go, I'm sure a lot of people noticed that Ren, this little baby here, has been in a lot of my videos. He is a comfort character for reasons of feeling relatability in the character. Not as an entire whole, because I see him more as a vague concept now. I haven't played that game in forever, and I guess, like with a lot of things that I only have vague concepts to go on, these characters form a life of their own in my mind outside their original worlds and universes. Just as Tim or Masty over here, these two are big comfort characters for me. Tim from Marble Hornets, one of these scenes from Marble Hornets that sticks out very, very strong for me is the scene where I think it's Jay, yeah, of course, and these are going to be spoilers for Marble Hornets if anybody wants to watch it. I recommend. It's been a while since I've watched it in its entirety, but and I actually didn't get into Marble Hornets until way after they had finished making the series, and it was already well-known knowledge that it was just like one of those fun little internet projects, or a project in general between friends. Tim is my favorite character from Marble Hornets, especially since I vibe with him very deeply. But as I said, the scene that always sticks out the most to me is when Tim had finally found out that Jay was not just trying to reach out in hopes of finishing the film, and he had found the channel where Jay was sticking his nose in things that probably should have been left alone, and he should have burned the tapes instead of doing what he did. The scene that wrenches my heart very badly, and even now causes me to start to tear up, is when Tim and him meet face to face in that parking lot. He has this outburst about how he was trying to heal and feel better. That he was starting to feel better. Only to be dragged back down into hell, or what felt like hell was hell again. And that scene always makes me cry, because in a sense I can feel that, to where you start to think that things are getting better for you, only to realize that you've been pulled back into the thick of it, and everything hurts again. Everything feels so horrible. Can't even distinguish reality from fate in certain cases, or understand who you are anymore. The lines blur, and I don't do the same thing the character was in the performance, but I deal with mental illness of my own, and the constant struggle of trying to manage mental illness on top of PTSD and traumas that go very deep, and trying my best to be kind and understanding towards others who I know probably have been through similar. And even at times I have moments of feeling like a cornered, wounded animal. And even when people try to extend their hands in what they want to help, it even then can feel terrifying and make you want to bite and feel like you're being attacked when someone's trying to help. They not know who to trust or what is up and down sometimes. And a lot of times when I'm struggling, that scene seems to pop up. I'm not actually all that. I've been in the creepypasta fandom, but out of anything, the only part of the community or whatever that I've never really even been in many communities, to be honest. This video is going off the rails. But Marble Hornets is the only big thing that I ever really hyperfixated on for a good while. And I don't like any other version of Tim or Maskey outside of Marble Hornets. I think the cast that portrayed the feature did a very good job at portraying the character. Speaking of, I recently found a picture, maybe I'll throw it up on the screen, that was just a stupid joke picture that I found on Pinterest involving Jay and Tim during their exchange. And I'm looking at the comments, somebody had said that it's funny because canonically Tim is asexual. And I remember feeling really, really happy to hear that. I was like, is that real? Is that true? One of my comfort characters is asexual, like me. I was like, yes, asexual king. I'm sorry, fine. But yeah, I said I was gonna stop here, so I'm gonna stop here now. I'll probably compile a quick video. I don't want to add too many effects or too much to it. I will add certain things. Excuse my coughing. In the morning time, I struggle a lot with dry throat. Especially when I'm not feeling good. I cough a lot more. So mentally, when I'm not feeling good, my chest can hurt and my throat feels dry. So, you know. I don't have any comfort characters or anything that breaks I'm kind of over the top selective. Well, I can enjoy things that really stick with me are far and few between, or things that I really find myself. Either way, that's why a lot of times you'll see Ren or Maskey running around in my speed paints and stuff. Excuse me. Or speed sketches. Because they're kind of little comfort buddies on the screen. But this was my short video talk that wasn't very well formulated on certain topics that I feel passionate about, and I am in abundance of overwhelming passion that makes me want to puke rainbows, and perhaps not rainbows, more like black ink and blood. But I digress. Maybe mixed with rainbows. Either way, it's a mess. But I'm trying every day to be better and do better and to heal, even against a lot of strong odds that more than likely it's not going to work out. I still hope and I still try to care what I love. deeply. Because they are the people that have been there. Even if sometimes I lose myself and find it hard to trust the people that I love. So, anyone else who's struggling out there, I hope that you all can find your way too. Excuse me. And eventually things will go better. And even if they don't, that you can find a way to exist, have those moments of fleeting happiness that we all strive for. Thank you for listening if you did, and I hope your days are filled with blessings. I'm not the most spiritual person. I'm more agnostic. Whatever you follow or feel in your heart, I hope that you find what you need. Take care, everyone.